A woman under God's protection is not just shielded from physical danger, but also from emotional, spiritual, and psychological harm. One of the most powerful ways God protects a woman is through divine discernment and intuition. This is not mere instinct. It is a spiritual gift that allows her to perceive things beyond the natural. It is an inner voice, a deep knowing, a nudge in her spirit that alerts her to situations, people, or decisions that could lead her down the wrong path. Discernment is one of the most profound forms of divine guidance. When a woman walks closely with God, her spirit is attuned to His voice, and she becomes more sensitive to His warnings. She may meet someone who seems charming and kind, but something in her heart tells her something is off. She may receive an opportunity that looks perfect on paper, yet she feels unsettled about taking it. These feelings are not baseless fears. They are God's way of steering her away from harm. The world may call it intuition, but in reality, it is the Holy Spirit whispering to her, urging her to pay attention. A woman under divine protection often finds herself avoiding situations that could have led to destruction. Have you ever been in a moment where you almost made a decision, but something held you back? Maybe you were about to trust someone with your secrets, but a sudden hesitation stopped you. Maybe you were ready to invest in something, but a lingering feeling of unease made you reconsider. Then, later, you discovered that the person was untrustworthy or the opportunity was a trap. That was not coincidence. That was God's protection operating through your discernment. In the Bible, we see many examples of women who were given divine discernment to navigate difficult situations. Take Esther, for example. She was placed in a position of power, but she had to be careful in how she approached the king to save her people. Her discernment, guided by God, led her to move with wisdom and precision. If she had acted impulsively, she might not have succeeded. Then there's Abigail, who discerned the danger of her husband's foolish actions and quickly intervened to prevent disaster. These women were protected because they listened to that inner guidance that God placed within them. This kind of discernment is especially important in relationships. A woman under God's protection will often feel uneasy about certain people, even when there is no obvious reason to doubt them. She may sense dishonesty in a person's words, even if they sound convincing. She may feel distant from someone she once trusted, not because of anything they did outwardly, but because God is revealing their true nature to her spirit. In time, the truth always comes to light, and she realizes that her discernment was accurate. This is why it is so crucial to trust that inner voice when something feels wrong, even when others dismiss it. Discernment also helps a woman recognize when she is in the wrong environment. She may walk into a place and immediately feel out of place, like she does not belong. This is God warning her that the atmosphere is not aligned with His purpose for her. It could be a workplace that does not match her values, a friendship that drains her spirit, or a relationship that weakens her faith. When she listens to this discernment, she saves herself from unnecessary pain and regret. But divine discernment is not only about avoiding danger, it is also about recognizing blessings. A woman under God's protection will not only sense when something is wrong, but she will also feel peace when something is right. She will know when she has met someone trustworthy, when she has found a job aligned with her purpose, or when she is walking in the right direction. God's protection works both ways, closing the doors that would harm her and opening the ones that will bless her. And it was here in God's protection that Leary, the nuns, worked not to close the doors that would harm her and opening the ones that will bless her. Sometimes a woman may struggle to trust her discernment, especially if she has ignored it in the past. She may remember times when she felt uneasy about someone, but dismissed it only to be hurt later. She may have ignored the warnings and ended up in toxic relationships, bad financial decisions, or painful experiences. But the beautiful thing about God's protection is that it is always available. Even when mistakes are made, He continues to guide and correct. He does not hold past misjudgments against her. Instead, He refines her discernment so that she becomes wiser, stronger, and more attuned to His voice. One of the biggest obstacles to discernment is external noise. When a woman is surrounded by too many opinions, influences, and distractions, it becomes harder to hear God's voice. That is why spending time in prayer, meditation, and reflection is crucial. A protected woman prioritizes her spiritual connection because she knows that it is through that relationship that she gains clarity. She understands that the closer she is to God, the sharper her discernment becomes. Another sign of divine protection through discernment is when a woman feels an unexplained sense of urgency or delay. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt an overwhelming need to act quickly, even when it didn't make sense? Maybe you suddenly felt like you needed to leave a place or make an immediate decision, or perhaps you felt the opposite, you were about to take action, but an overwhelming sense of weight stopped you. These moments are God's way of directing your steps, keeping you safe from unseen dangers, or preparing you for something better. A woman under divine protection does not live in fear, but she also does not move blindly. She walks with wisdom, confidence, and spiritual awareness. She knows that God's protection is not always visible, but is always present. She trusts that when He gives her discernment, it is for a reason. Even when she does not understand why she feels a certain way, she knows that obedience to that feeling will keep her safe. In a world full of deception, manipulation, and distractions, discernment is one of the most powerful gifts a woman can have. It is her spiritual compass, her shield, and her guide. It protects her from wolves in sheep's clothing, from paths that lead to destruction, and from choices that could derail her purpose. When she listens to that divine voice within, she aligns herself with God's will and secures His protection over her life. When a woman is favored and protected by God, one of the strongest signs of His divine covering over her life is how He removes certain people from her path. This is not always an easy experience, and often it feels more like a loss than a blessing, but in reality, when God allows certain relationships to end, friendships to fade, and connections to break, He is not punishing her, He is protecting her. She may not see it in the moment, but in time she will understand that every removal was an act of divine intervention. There are people who enter a woman's life for a season, but not everyone is meant to stay. Some people are there to teach lessons, some are there to test her patience, and others are there to distract her from her purpose. But God in His wisdom knows who is truly meant to walk with her and who is only weighing her down. If someone is not aligned with her destiny, no matter how much she tries to hold on, God will create circumstances that make the separation inevitable. It may come through a sudden argument, an unexplained distance, or even a betrayal. While the pain of losing people can be overwhelming, what she does not realize at the time is that God is clearing the way for something greater. A woman under God's protection does not always recognize toxic people immediately. Sometimes she may be blind to their true intentions because of her kind heart. She may be willing to overlook red flags, make excuses for their behavior, and continue giving chances to those who repeatedly show they do not deserve them. But God sees beyond what she sees. He knows the heart of every person in her life. And when He sees that someone is not for her good, He steps in. He allows the truth to be exposed in ways that can no longer be ignored. This divine protection is evident in relationships, friendships, and even workplace connections. She may find that a friend she trusted begins to act differently. The person she once confided in starts gossiping about her behind her back. A relationship that seemed perfect suddenly begins to show cracks. At first, she may try to fix things, thinking that she can restore what is breaking, but the more she tries, the worse things become. That is because when God is the one removing someone, No amount of effort can bring them back into her life. And if she forces the relationship to continue, she will find herself drained, heartbroken, and struggling with unnecessary burden. One of the hardest things for a woman to accept is that not every loss is a tragedy. Some losses are a form of deliverance. When she prays for protection, she must understand that sometimes the answer to that prayer is God taking certain people away. It is His way of preventing future pain. It is His way of making room for people who will truly value and uplift her. Every time she feels heartache over losing someone she thought would be in her life forever, she must remind herself that God sees what she cannot. What feels like rejection is actually redirection. This is not to say that every difficult relationship is meant to be severed. Sometimes challenges are there to strengthen bonds and build character. But there is a difference between a relationship that is growing through hardship and one that is toxic and draining. A woman under God's protection will notice patterns, people who constantly take from her but never give back, relationships that make her feel less rather than more, and friendships that bring more stress than peace. When she is unsure, she can ask God for clarity, and He will reveal the truth. She may overhear a conversation she was never meant to hear. She may discover messages that expose deception, or she may simply feel a heaviness that refuses to go away whenever she is around a certain person. These are signs that God is nudging her toward letting go. Letting go is not always easy, especially when emotions are involved. She may have memories with these people, shared experiences, and deep connections. But a woman protected by God will understand that His plans for her life are far greater than any temporary attachment. She will trust that if someone is being removed, it is for her ultimate good. She may not see the danger now, but later she will look back and realize that God was saving her from heartbreak, betrayal, and missed opportunities. One of the most common ways God removes people is through circumstances. She may notice that certain individuals begin to pull away without any explanation. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel forced. There may be constant misunderstandings that were never there before. The relationship may feel strained, like something is off, but she cannot pinpoint what it is. This is often God's way of making the separation happen naturally so that she does not feel the need to fight against it. A woman under God's protection will always find herself shielded from harm, even when she does not recognize it in the moment. One of the most powerful ways God protects a woman is by removing people from her life who do not have her best interests at heart. At times, this can be painful and confusing because she may not immediately understand why certain relationships suddenly fall apart, or why people she once trusted begin to distance themselves. But what she may not realize is that God is working behind the scenes, clearing out those who were never meant to stay, those who would have caused her harm, and those who would have hindered her growth. When a woman is favored by God, she will notice that toxic relationships do not last in her life. She may try to hold on to certain friendships or relationships, believing that they are good for her, but over time things begin to shift. The people who once seemed supportive may start to show their true colors. Those who once appeared loyal may begin to act differently. She may experience betrayal, deceit, or manipulation, but what she must understand is that these moments are not happening to destroy her, they are happening to protect her. God sees what she cannot. He hears conversations that she is not present for. He knows the hidden intentions of people who smile in her face but secretly envy her, who pretend to love her but are actually working against her. And because He loves her, He will remove them before they can cause irreversible damage. At first, she may not recognize this as protection. She may grieve the loss of friendships or relationships that once felt secure. She may wonder why certain people changed, or why connections that seemed strong suddenly faded away. But with time, she will begin to see the truth. She will look back and realize that every person who left was not meant to stay, and that God was clearing the way for better people to enter her life. This form of divine protection can often come with loneliness. She may go through a season where it feels like she is walking alone, where the support system she once had is no longer there, and where she questions why she had to experience these losses. But what she must remember is that when God removes, He also replaces. He does not take away without the intention of giving her something greater in return. If certain friendships ended, it is because He is preparing to introduce her to people who will uplift, support, and encourage her in the way she truly needs. If a relationship ended, it is because He is protecting her from future heartbreak and making space for someone who will love and respect her the way He intended. Sometimes a woman may not let go of unhealthy relationships on her own, so God intervenes. She may ignore the warning signs, excuse the red flags, or convince herself that she can change people. She may try to force connections that were never meant to last, holding on out of fear, comfort, or emotional attachment. But God, in His wisdom, knows that if she stays connected to the wrong people, she will never be able to step into the full potential of what He has planned for her. And so He will allow situations to unfold that force her to walk away. This could come in the form of a sudden betrayal where someone she trusted deeply disappoints her in a way she never expected. It could come in the form of repeated conflicts that reveal a person's true nature. Or it could come in the form of an undeniable feeling in her spirit that tells her it is time to move on. However it happens, she must learn to trust the process. She must believe that every loss is actually a gain, even if it does not feel like it in the moment. A woman under God's protection will also notice that certain opportunities, invitations, or environments begin to close off to her. She may find that she is no longer welcomed in certain spaces, that people who once included her suddenly start leaving her out, or that she is no longer drawn to the same places and activities she once enjoyed. This too is a sign of God's protection. He is setting her apart, pulling her away from influences that could lead her down the wrong path and placing her in environments that align with His plan for her life. When she is under divine protection, she will also feel a shift in her discernment. She will start to sense when something is not right, even if she cannot explain why. She may get a strong feeling that a person is not genuine, that an opportunity is not as good as it seems, or that she should avoid a particular situation. This is the Holy Spirit guiding her, warning her, and keeping her safe. And the more she listens to this inner voice, the more she will recognize how often God is speaking to her. She must remember that every person she loses is not a loss. Some people were only meant to be in her life for a season. Their purpose in her story may have already been fulfilled, and keeping them around would only delay what God has for her. Instead of holding on, she must learn to release. She must trust that if someone is meant to be in her life, they will stay. And if they leave, it is because God has something better. Over time, she will begin to notice the difference in the people who enter her life. She will attract relationships that are built on mutual respect, trust, and genuine love. She will find herself surrounded by those who want to see her grow, who encourage her faith, and who bring peace rather than chaos. She will realize that the losses were actually blessings in disguise. God's protection is not always obvious, and at times it may feel like rejection or heartbreak. But when she fully trusts Him, she will understand that He is not taking away, He is making room. He is preparing her for the right people, the right connections, and the right relationships that will align with her purpose and bring her closer to the life He has planned for her. When a woman is under God's protection, she will notice that certain battles seem to fight themselves. There are moments in life where she may expect to struggle, to have to defend herself, or to push back against forces working against her, but instead she will find that things fall into place without her needing to exhaust herself trying to make them happen. This is because God is stepping in on her behalf, clearing the path and shielding her from harm in ways she may not even realize at the time. One of the most profound ways God protects a woman is by handling situations that she is not even aware of. She may think she needs to confront someone, prove herself, or force a situation to work in her favor, but what she does not see is that God is already working behind the scenes. He is touching the hearts of people who hold influence over her situation. He is shifting circumstances in her favor. He is removing obstacles before she even reaches them. She may walk into a room expecting resistance, only to find unexpected favor. She may assume that a door will be closed, only to discover that it has already been opened for her. This kind of divine intervention is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it is a quiet movement, a subtle shift that she does not even recognize until she looks back. She may never know how many times God protected her from harm, how many situations He redirected for her benefit, or how many dangers He removed before they could even reach her. She must trust that even in moments where she feels unprotected or vulnerable, God is always watching over her, guarding her steps, and ensuring that she is never left without His guidance. There will be times when she feels like she is walking through uncertainty, unsure of what lies ahead. The future may seem unclear, and she may not know how things will turn out. But if she pays attention, she will start to notice signs of God's protection all around her. She will see how certain problems resolve themselves without her intervention. She will witness how situations that once seemed impossible suddenly shift in her favor. And she will realize that she is never alone in her battles. God is always fighting for her. God's protection is not just about shielding her from harm. It is also about preparing her for the future. He knows what she needs before she even asks. He understands the challenges she will face before she even encounters them. And because of this, He positions her in places that will strengthen her, teach her, and prepare her for what is coming. She may not always understand why she is in a certain place or why she is going through certain trials, but in time she will see that everything was part of His greater plan for her life. A woman under God's protection will also experience moments where things that seem certain suddenly fall apart. She may think she is on the right path, only to have everything shift unexpectedly. A job opportunity may disappear, a relationship may end, a plan she was counting on may fail. In those moments, it is easy to feel like she has been abandoned or like things are working against her. But what she must realize is that when God allows something to fall apart, it is because He is making space for something greater. Sometimes protection comes in the form of rejection. She may not get what she prayed for, but that does not mean God did not answer her prayer. It means He had something better in mind. She may not understand why things did not work out, but later she will look back and see that what she thought was a loss was actually a blessing. The things that did not work were never meant to, and the people who left were never meant to stay. She must trust that God's plan is always greater than her own. She may think she knows what is best for her life, but God sees the full picture. He knows what is ahead, and He knows what will truly bring her peace, joy, and fulfillment. When she learns to trust His protection, she will stop trying to force things that were never meant to be. She will stop chasing what is not for her, and she will start walking in faith, knowing that everything meant for her will come at the right time. Another sign of God's protection is the sense of peace she feels even in difficult situations. She may be going through a storm, but deep down she feels a calm assurance that everything will be okay. This is God's way of letting her know that He is in control. She does not have to panic, worry, or fear. He is already working everything out in her favor.